I discovered someone worth my attention. My name is Miles Hartley, a 44-year-old commercial architect based in Savannah, Georgia. I was in my home office, gazing at an email from my wife of 12 years, Kendra, who is supposedly at a yoga retreat in Arizona. The email's timestamp read 11:22 p.m. her time. It said she'd transferred my inheritance to her private account, claiming it was for the best. Attached was a blurry photo of her with a bearded man on a balcony, the sunset glowing behind them, wine glasses in hand. Her smile was unlike any she'd shown me in years. I shut my laptop, walked to the kitchen, poured myself a glass of water, and stared at the backyard we'd revamped together 3 summers back. The stone path I'd set while she planted hydrangeas along the borders. All that effort for a home she clearly had no plans to return to. That money, $587,000 from my Aunt Elaine, wasn't just funds. It symbolized the woman who raised me after my parents passed when I was 14, who worked double shifts at the hospital to fund my college education, who left me everything with a single note. Create something enduring. I checked my phone. No missed calls, no texts asking if I'd read her email, just silence, as if she'd already stepped into a new life. The clues had been there for months. Kendra's yoga retreats grew more frequent. 2 days stretched to 4, then to week-long trips. Her phone was always face down, passwords changed, conversations clipped. 3 months earlier, she'd asked strange questions about the inheritance. Where the funds were held, which accounts, if we should spread them across different investments. I nodded, said I'd consider it. I reopened my laptop, reread her email, and noticed she hadn't even bothered with the salutation or my name, just the statement and the theft. I typed a brief reply, appreciate the heads up. Then I closed the laptop, finished my water, and went to bed. Tomorrow would be exhausting. But lying alone in our king-size bed, I realized something that should have troubled me, but didn't. I slept better knowing she wasn't coming back. What Kendra didn't know was that I'd suspected trouble months ago. The inheritance was never where she thought it was, and her attempt to take it had just handed me everything I needed. I met Kendra 15 years ago at a professional conference in Charlotte. She was starting her wellness brand, seeking architects for her first physical studio. I was 5 years into my career, eager for projects beyond office towers and parking lots. We married within 3 years, settled in Savannah where my firm was based, and bought a craftsman home on Victory Drive with the wraparound porch she'd always dreamed of. No children. That was her choice. My business is my child, she'd say. I got it. My buildings were my own. For 8 years, it worked. I designed. She grew her brand of organic products and retreats. We traveled, threw dinner parties, looked perfect on paper and in person. Then my Aunt Elaine fell ill. Cancer, swift and brutal. I took a 6-month partial leave to care for her in Atlanta. Kendra visited twice. Hospitals make me uneasy, she said. I didn't press her. When Elaine died, she left everything to me. The money surprised me. I hadn't known she'd invested so wisely. Kendra was surprised too, suddenly keen on financial planning in ways she'd never been. We could invest it in expanding the business, she suggested one evening over dinner. Her business, she meant. I need to think about what Elaine would have wanted, I replied. That was the first fracture, subtle but clear. Others followed. Kendra's trips for research and supplier meetings increased. Her calls grew brief, often with muffled voices in the background that hushed when I asked who was there. Our neighbor, Frank, stopped by one afternoon while Kendra was at a team retreat in Sedona. Saw someone drop her off last week, he mentioned casually. Late, wasn't it? Thought you were out of town. I had been at a 3-day conference in Boston. I thanked him for the homemade bread his wife sent. Didn't pry further, just stored the information. Then came the password changes, banking apps locked when they'd never been before, financial discussions cut short when I asked pointed questions. One evening, I overheard her on the phone in the backyard, her voice soft, laughing in a way she no longer did with me. Just Patricia from the studio, she said, coming inside. Patricia, who'd left the business 8 months prior. I nodded, didn't challenge her, watched as she poured more wine and shifted topics. The foundation of our marriage was crumbling, and only one of us was admitting it. 2 weeks before Kendra left for what would be her final retreat, My firm's financial advisor, Jerry, called. Someone's been trying to access your trust accounts, he said, using your personal info but failing the security questions. I asked which accounts, though I already knew the inheritance funds. I thanked him, hung up, and sat at my desk for a long time. That night, Kendra suggested we streamline our accounts. It's impractical to have so many separate logins, she said, avoiding my gaze. We should merge everything. You're probably right, I replied. I'll talk to Jerry. The next day, I drove to Atlanta to meet Rita Wallace, my aunt's attorney of 20 years, now mine. I laid out my concerns, calmly, factually, no accusations. Your aunt was smart to set up an irrevocable trust, Rita said. The money's secure, no matter what happens in your marriage. If someone tried to move those funds without authorization, that's attempted financial fraud with serious legal consequences. I nodded. Let's track everything. Set up alerts for any attempts to access or alter the trust. When I got home, Kendra had packed for her retreat. She gave me a quick kiss, already distant. I might stay longer this time, she said at the door. Really immerse myself in the practice. I helped load her bags, watch her drive off, went inside, and opened my laptop. I didn't dig through her emails or texts, didn't call her friends or check her location. Instead, I opened our shared cloud storage where we kept household files. In a folder labeled Home Renovation Plans, a project we discussed starting this year, I found what I needed: screenshots of my accounts, copies of statements, notes on transfer protocols, a photo of a whiteboard with my inheritance amount minus 20%, labeled Transfer Fee Explanation. She'd been planning this for months. I closed the folder, walked through our house with its carefully selected furniture and art that showcased the facade we'd built, and felt an odd calm. The betrayal wasn't surprising. What caught me off guard was my reaction. Not anger or sorrow, but clarity. For the first time in years, I saw our marriage for what it was, a deal she was now ending for a better offer. I slept in the guest room that night and started making calls the next morning. By the time Kendra's email arrived 5 days later, I'd already begun my response. I waited 24 hours before acting. No rash calls or texts, just calculated steps. First, I contacted Jerry and Rita, forwarding Kendra's email with a brief note for documentation. Both acknowledged receipt without needing more details. Then I called Thomas Webb, a divorce attorney Rita had recommended months earlier during a what-if discussion. His assistant set a meeting for that afternoon. By noon, Kendra texted, "Did you see my email?" I replied, "Yes." "That's it," she shot back minutes later. I didn't respond. Instead, I drove to Thomas's office downtown, where Rita joined via video call. "The attempted transfer leaves a clear trail," Thomas said, reviewing Rita's documents. "Several factors are in your favor. The funds were inherited, never mixed with marital assets, held in a trust, and she's now admitted to trying to access them without permission." "What's next?" I asked. "File for divorce immediately, citing financial misconduct. Georgia isn't a no-fault state when fraud's involved." I signed the paperwork before leaving at 4:30 p.m. My phone rang, Kendra's name on the screen. "You're being immature," she said when I picked up. No greeting. "This doesn't need to be complicated." "I agree," I replied. "Let's handle it maturely." "The money's already moved," she said. "Fighting it will just cost us both in legal fees." "Where are you staying?" I shifted the topic. "Why does that matter?" she snapped, caught off guard. "Just wondering where home is for you now." "Miles, focus. We need to talk about the finances." "I'm having my lawyer draft settlement papers," I said. "It's better to keep this smooth." "Who's your lawyer?" she asked. "David Lawrence. He's already reviewing everything." I noted the name. "That's helpful, thank you." "Miles, are you even listening? This doesn't have to be hard." "You said that already," I replied, voice steady. "I appreciate your effort to simplify things." A pause. "What are you doing?" "Nothing yet. Just adjusting to the situation, I suppose." I heard her exhale, mistaking my calm for surrender. "It's for the best," she said, her tone softening. "We've been drifting apart for years. This is cleaner than prolonging it." "You're right," I agreed. "Cleaner is better." After we hung up, I called Thomas, gave him David Lawrence's info, and sent Kendra a text. taking time to think. We'll reach out when ready to discuss. Her reply was instant. Don't wait too long. Papers will be ready by Friday. 3 days away. Perfect timing. At 6 p.m., Rita called. The trust company recorded 3 attempts to transfer funds from the trust today, all documented and blocked. The monitoring system caught everything. IP addresses, login attempts, timestamps. The access location matches the email's origin. Scottsdale, Arizona, not Sedona. She paused. There's more. Last month, someone exported account details and transfer protocols from your home network. We have timestamps and device IDs. I thanked her, hung up, and walked through the house, now feeling more like a crime scene than a home. In the kitchen, I opened the 20-year-old scotch we'd saved for our 15th anniversary, poured a small glass, and sipped. Kendra thought she'd set the trap, but she'd stepped right into one herself. The next morning, David Lawrence called, his tone cautious. Mr. Hartley, I'm representing your wife in your separation. She says you're open to a simple settlement. Is that what she said? I replied. A slight pause. She indicated you understand the situation. Which situation, exactly? Another pause. The division of assets, including recent inheritance funds. Has she shown you proof of these funds? She provided statements, he said carefully, from about 3 months ago. I noted that. And transfer confirmations? She says those are coming from the bank. I see, I said, voice neutral. Has she mentioned the inheritances structure? The irrevocable trust set up by my late aunt? The legal impossibility of what she claims to have done? Silence. Mr. Lawrence, I suggest you verify her information. My attorney will send relevant documents to your office today. After hanging up, I drove to Brightstone Bank, where Kendra and I held our joint accounts. The manager, Harold, had handled our mortgage refinancing 2 years prior. I need to see recent activity on all joint accounts, I said. Harold pulled up the records, his face tightening as he scrolled. There have been significant withdrawals over the past 3 months. How significant? He turned the monitor toward me. Regular transfers to an unfamiliar account, starting small, $2,000, $3,500, then escalating. The latest, 2 weeks ago, was $47,000. This receiving account, I pointed, is it with Brightstone? He checked. No, it's external. Northern Lakes Credit Union. I'd never heard of it. Can you print the transaction history for the past 6 months? While waiting for the printouts, I got a text from Thomas, Lawrence requesting urgent meeting. Tone shifted. By the time I reached Thomas's office, the picture was clearer. The Northern Lakes account, opened 8 months ago in Kendra's name only, listed an apartment in Scottsdale, Arizona. Total withdrawals from our joint accounts, $178,000. She's been building a new life for a while, Thomas noted, while still accessing yours. We were reviewing the bank records when Thomas's assistant announced David Lawrence on the line. I've received the trust documentation, Lawrence said, his voice tense. My client may have misrepresented her ability to access or transfer those funds. That seems to be the case, Thomas replied. Given this, I think we should discuss a revised approach, Lawrence said. My client has filed for divorce, citing financial misconduct, Thomas responded. The evidence speaks for itself. After the call, Thomas looked at me. He'll drop her as a client by end of day. No reputable lawyer wants to touch this. What about the money she took from the joint accounts? We'll include it in the filing, I said. Let her explain to a judge why she set up a secret residence and siphoned marital assets. I nodded, feeling oddly empty. The betrayal was deeper than I'd imagined. Not a spur-of-the-moment act, but a calculated plan executed over months while she slept beside me, ate with me, made plans with me. One more thing, I said. I need to know who he is. Not for confrontation or the divorce. Just to understand the full extent of what I missed while building what I thought was our life. Thomas nodded. I'll have someone look into it. That evening, a courier arrived with an envelope for me. Inside was a letter from David Lawrence, formally withdrawing as Kendra's counsel, with copies sent to her and the court. A note from Thomas was attached. First domino. Minutes later, my phone lit up, Kendra calling. I let it go to voicemail. She called 3 more times before texting. What the hell did you do? I didn't reply. While eating a sandwich at the kitchen counter, I received an email from Rita. Subject: Update. The trust company had finalized their investigation into the access attempts, documenting multiple unauthorized efforts over 3 months, all logged with IP addresses and timestamps. They'd referred the matter to their legal department for potential criminal investigation. No action needed from you now, Rita wrote, but this path is open. I forwarded everything to Thomas. Just after 9 p.m., another text from Kendra. We need to talk now. I replied, through your new attorney when you have one. You've completely overreacted. I was upset when I sent that email. I didn't actually move anything. That's not what the access logs show. A long pause, then what access logs? Instead of answering, I asked, who is he? 20 minutes later, this isn't about him. Name. Another pause. Jason. But he's not important. Last name. Berkeley. He's just a friend helping me through this. You're focusing on the wrong thing. I didn't respond further. A quick search revealed a Jason Berkeley, yoga instructor in Scottsdale, formerly an investment broker, per his LinkedIn. He'd left finance 3 years ago to pursue meaningful connections. The next morning, I met with Frank, our neighbor. The guy you saw dropping Kendra off. I began, would you recognize him? Frank nodded slowly. Tall, bearded, drives a gray Tesla. I showed him a photo from Kendra's email. This him? He squinted. Yeah, that's the guy. Saw him here maybe 5 or 6 times while you were traveling. I thanked him, asked if he'd provide a statement. He agreed without hesitation. At 11 a.m., Thomas called. We've got a complication. Kendra's hired Philip Barnes. Barnes was known for aggressive divorce litigation, costly but skilled. He's requested an emergency hearing to challenge the financial misconduct claim, Thomas said. Claims Kendra has proof all financial decisions were mutual. When's the hearing? Monday morning, 3 days from now. I thought of the Scottsdale apartment, the Northern Lakes account, Jason Berkeley in my house while I was away. Let's give Barnes something to consider, I said. That afternoon, Thomas sent Barnes a package. Trust access logs, bank records of systematic withdrawals, the Scottsdale apartment lease, Frank's notarized statement about Jason's visits, and screenshot from Kendra's home renovation ideas folder detailing her plans to access my accounts. By 5 p.m., Thomas got a call from Barnes requesting an urgent meeting to discuss settlement options. He's seen enough, Thomas told me. Offered a clean split. She keeps what she took, makes no further claims. You keep the house and full inheritance. Counter, I said. She returns half of what she took from the joint accounts and signs a non-disclosure agreement. I won't pursue the fraud angle. Thomas raised an eyebrow. You could get more. I don't want more. I want it done. On the morning of the scheduled hearing, Kendra and Barnes arrived at the courthouse to find Thomas waiting with a prepared settlement agreement. No Barnes, no judge, no public drama. I waited in the consultation room while Thomas outlined the terms. Kendra would return $89,275, half the joint account withdrawals, within 24 hours, make no claims on the inheritance or other assets, and sign a non-disclosure agreement barring her from discussing our marriage or divorce. In return, I wouldn't pursue fraud charges related to the trust attempts. Through the glass walls, I saw Kendra's face as Thomas presented the evidence file, photos, statements, logs. Her expression shifted from defiance to shock to resignation. She glanced toward me, then quickly away. Barnes reviewed the documents, whispering to her. She nodded slowly. 10 minutes later, they entered the room. My client accepts, Barnes said formally. Thomas slid the agreement across. Kendra signed, her handwriting unsteady but resolute. I signed my part, then passed her an envelope. What's this? She asked, her first words. The passwords, I said. Cloud storage, house alarm, anything you might need to collect what you left behind. Her eyes met mine, searching for anger or victory, finding neither. She looked more lost than I'd ever seen her. It was never about the money, I said softly. That would have been easier. Barnes guided her to stand. She clutched the envelope as they left, never looking back. 6 months later, I sold the Victory Drive house. Too many empty spaces, too many memories to erase. The new owners, a young family with twins, loved the porch and hydrangeas. I moved to a downtown loft, steps from my firm's office, furnished it simply, kept less. Rita helped me channel my aunt's inheritance into a foundation for architectural scholarships for kids who'd lost parents. The first recipient was a 17-year-old from South Georgia whose essay on designing healing spaces struck the committee. Elaine would have loved her, Rita said when we awarded the scholarship. I thought of my aunt often, her practical wisdom, her belief that building something worthwhile demanded vision and vigilance. One afternoon, checking mail in my building's lobby, I found an envelope with no return address. Inside was a check for $89,275 and a short note. The rest of what I owed. Not just the money. No signature, none needed. That evening, I walked to the riverfront where Kendra and I had once dreamed of a joint venture, a wellness space I'd design, she'd run. A dream long dead. I sat on a bench, watching cargo ships glide by, the check in my pocket. Tomorrow, I deposit it into the foundation, another scholarship, another chance to build something lasting. My phone buzzed. Jerry, texting. Dinner still on for 7? Bringing that architect I mentioned. I checked my watch. Enough time to walk home, change, and head to the restaurant. Enough time to say yes to what came next. I texted back, stood, and faced the evening. Sometimes the strongest answer to betrayal isn't vengeance, it's rebuilding.